Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 13th Canadian Science Policy Conference. Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à la 13e Conférence canadienne sur les politiques scientifiques. My name is Peter Serles, and I'm a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering at the University of Toronto and a senior volunteer with the Canadian Science Policy Centre. I'm honored to be here today with Mitch Davies, President of the National Research Council of Canada, for the 2021 Canadian Science Policy Conference interview series. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here.
So you've been a longtime supporter with the CSPC, both in your previous roles with ISED and now in your position with the National Research Council of Canada as the president since last December. Congratulations on your new appointment, and we're delighted to have your continued support of the CSPC and for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what the first year in your role has looked like for you, and what are some of your goals for the NRC?
Great. Well, thanks. And yes, indeed, I recall talking about the conference many years ago. I see we're celebrating, I think it's 10 years or more. And I think just around that time I was involved there. And how do we get this up and on its feet? And it's great to see it thriving. And now, of course, working in a new way in the pandemic to move to a digital platform. But we're going to see this through. So it's great to be here with you. For me, to come to the NRC was a great privilege and an honor to be asked. And arriving here last December, I mean, I knew how challenging the time had been at the NRC and how much work had been done by the employees of the NRC to respond to COVID-19. You know, as we all have had to, as individuals, we all had to make our adjustments. But this organization has been incredibly busy serving Canadians and meeting critical needs that were on us, and that we had to solve a lot of problems. And I think the organization did a lot of really interesting things that some have known, some are not known, behind the scenes, that were really important in Canada's response. My priority really is to engage the employees, and in fact, I've been able to visit with all 4,000 plus of our employees in individual virtual meetings that I put as a priority to get out and really talk to people in the research centers and the business units. And to make that my first effort, really, to make sure I'm spending time talking with people. And then, of course, to keep our promises really to Canadians on some of the critical COVID-19 response projects, like the Biologics Manufacturing Center at Royalmount in our Royalmount site in Montreal, which we were really pleased this summer to be able to announce the end of construction, the opening of the facility. We did it in 10 months on budget and before time. And I think the complexity of that project and what we had to orchestrate to get it done in the time that we did was really a great achievement. So it's really keeping focus on those things that we had to deliver for Canadians, and then obviously just to engage the organization and get to know its people and all the great work going on across the council.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I think that leads very nicely into kind of my next question too, which was really specific to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so the NRC has certainly been very central to the response, and a number of initiatives, including the biomanufacturing facility, which you discussed, and which I spoke with Vice Presidents Houle and Krishnan last year concerning that. There's also through the Industrial Research Assistant Program, or IRAP, and as well, there's the enormous Pandemic Response Challenge Program, which has united Canadian and international researchers for very fast-track paced R&D on COVID-19. So a really wide spectrum of initiatives that have all kind of come together to serve Canadians, as you mentioned. It's really been an enormous contribution on behalf of NRC. So kind of taking this, and now as we pivot to a post-pandemic world, or starting to come out of a pandemic world, what are some of the key learnings from the pandemic that you think NRC will be able to use going forward as it delivers on its core mission and its vision, and as it fosters all these different networks between industry, academia, and government?
Yeah, I'm just, I think a couple examples just to add a bit more to what's been said on the pandemic. Kind of illustrate where I'd be going to answer, what this means for us and what we've learned about what we need to be able to do as an institution, and why it's so important to Canada's resiliency, which is now the word that's being spoken of, in many forums, it being so important. I mean, the NRC in 5 days put together a system to test N95 respirators. It's easy to say it, but just to think of the capability needed from the point of view of measurement, the testing, the facilities, And to be able to do it so quickly and integrate that capability was something that I think we alone were uniquely positioned to do. Now that capability didn't just arise overnight. That's a long-term investment. These are long-term capabilities. And then within the organization to have that reflex to be able to knit it together and respond. And that meant 100 million masks that wouldn't have been to the front lines of in the middle of the pandemic and the early waves when we were buying material from abroad and new sources of supply were coming into our supply chain. That's just one example. We also spun up support for the supply chain for PCR testing, reagents, buffers, the different material. That supply chain was very brittle. We had to build made in Canada solutions. And, in fact, even in our research center in Montreal, we produced buffer for reagent for many months to build up the backlog in stock, or we wouldn't have been doing COVID-19 testing. So that's a story people didn't hear because it didn't turn out to be a major crisis, but it's because we could bring the capability to bear and solve it. So it tells me really two things that we have to really take as lessons. One is you have to build with a 10-year horizon. You have to be building your capability and scientific technological capability in the country, so critical to resilience. And it's critical when the things we count on normally in normal times break down. The supply chains, our international supply lines, which really is where we've been going as a worldwide economy for years, right? Actually moving supply chains, distributing supply throughout the world, having that core capability in Canada is so key. And that's something I think the NRC has been there for Canadians since, the 1900s and still needs to be there into the future. The second is you can't build relationships immediately. You need to have built them before. And it's, again, I think where the NRC was positioned between science capabilities and relationships with the academic sector, our own connectivity inside the organization across research centers, and then with the business sector. So this is where, having had IRAP as part of our family and a business line, 75 years history of IRAP coming up soon, this positioned us uniquely to be able to knit together solutions, not just part of it, but actually to connect it all together and to be able to build something sustainable. So there's companies now producing for Canadian needs, and they're up and running, and they were basically moved into those markets and guided through the process through the NRC and through IRAP. So relationships and capability, we have to have a 10-year horizon, and we need to be taking care of it now and thinking about our other challenges. And there's many that we face that we have to be positioned to respond. So I think that's sort of what I think we take away here at the NRC is how important it was to be able to knit that together.
Yeah, and I think that it's a very unique position that the NRC has in terms of both its interdisciplinary scientific aspect and being able to kind of be reliable and pull that all together quickly. But as you mentioned, also having the business side of it and being able to churn it out, see where the key faults are and really address those tightly. And it's true that I'm kind of, it's nice to hear these stories because they weren't crises, so they didn't make it to the news. And yeah, I mean, it's a good thing they weren't crises, certainly, but to be able to be taken care of behind the scenes and without really even kind of reaching the ears of Canadians. So certainly a lot has been happening behind the scenes, I'm sure.
And it's not maybe well understood necessarily that our kind of comparators of organizations like the NRC, research technology institutes around the world, what does set us apart is this link with IRAP. And it's not just another business line. It's something that really we see is how we integrate that with the rest of the work that council does on research and on technology and on doing technical work with its partners. It's a real key advantage and a real key offering that I think we even probably need to continue to take more advantage of that going forward, because and the pandemic in some ways really put us so close, made us working so close and seeing what we can do as one NRC that, we want to see how we can take that further in the future. I think we're well positioned now and we've really seen it in action.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be able to have that quick response and to be able to go all the way with it is really a clear indication that it's ready and it can keep going forward. So with that as well, the NRC has always been very forward thinking and very much maintaining a view towards the future and the challenges of the future, as you mentioned, keeping this 10-year horizon and kind of keeping our eyes forward. So how are you now anticipating and preparing for the next challenges that Canada's likely to face? And what do you think the next few years will look like for Canadians?
Yeah, so the interesting thing on this topic was when I arrived, I was briefed by our chief science advisor in the early days about a project called On the Horizon, which the NRC had launched some time ago prior to the pandemic, which was still running and kind of running in a virtual mode. It had to shift as well. But the goal of it is to look out 10 to 15 years for Canada. So this isn't about the NRC, it's about Canada's future, and to scan the horizon and look at what kind of future can we anticipate? What's the likely future we're going to need to face? What will the world look like? And then from that outlook, which is derived through a lot of consultation that we undertook and sort of a dedicated expert process to analyze and really balance the different points of view. Then working from that, what are the technology implications? What technologies will we need? Where would we need to build capability? And so that work actually of that second phase on the technology phase is now underway. And interestingly, for those that are participating in the conference, they would want to know on the 23rd of November at it's 2:00. We have sort of a virtual team where they can sort of join in and participate in sort of crowdsourcing that technology layer, this horizon. And we've got this project started to be an offer for Canada to participate in this conversation on an ongoing basis, and then for us to use that at the NRC to really benchmark where do we stand from a capabilities point of view and with our partners, and where do we need to position ourselves. So I think it was great to see that it was underway, and we're looking forward to completing the second phase. And of course, it offers an opportunity for folks, particularly the group of people that would participate in this conference, to kind of weigh in, and we'd like to have more voices included in that work, and it's something I think we can build together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very promising to hear that it's both a top-down approach and a kind of crowdsource approach where everyone gets to weigh in and really bring it forward so that there's many voices being heard.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important. And I think, we've definitely, there's been some setbacks and challenges just because the circumstances have been more challenging to kind of offer this and to maybe get the word out. But I really feel like we're going to be able to build momentum off this platform and make it something synonymous with what the NRC is doing to orchestrate having this conversation across the community, and then to bring that together. And it's almost like a gift back to everyone, and they can use it for their own planning, their own purposes. I think we're onto something really, really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So the NRC has always been very committed to developing the next generation of researchers as well. And that's included initiatives like the IRAP Youth Employment Program, which is aimed at assisting companies to hire younger talent as part of their innovation teams. I actually personally got my introduction to research through an internship with the NRC, which has now led me to my current position. So what advice or perspectives would you give to the younger generation now of researchers as Canada kind of pivots towards its post-pandemic world and begins to emerge forward?
Yeah, and it's great, Peter, and you're perfect kind of exemplar of what it meant to you, right, to be able to come into the NRC and start off your career and kind of get to know seeing science and technology in practice and what we do. We were able to prioritize that through the pandemic as well. It's 500 plus student opportunities continue to pace, and there's not a day I don't see on LinkedIn one of the students has just left the NRC and they're talking about their experience. And I mean, I'm really happy when I see them talking about it in a really positive light, which meant people really took the effort, took the time to integrate them in the team, even if they're working virtually, and make them have a great experience at the NRC. It's so important. This is critical, right? Building the capability so early, connecting science and technology talent with the whole world of opportunities, right? And it's in academic settings, but it's also going to be in industrial and commercial settings, and an organization like ours. So IRAP, as you know, is very much focused on youth employment initiatives as an integrated part of the offering to industry. And we've been given the opportunity through an increase in funding as part of the COVID response to be able to offer over 2,000 youth opportunities across Canada through IRAP this fiscal year, and that's fantastic. As far as advice, I mean, I think in some ways maybe folks who are in their studies or feel that life has been interrupted, and it has been a challenging number of months, right? And wondering, like, when does the future start for me? Things seem to be on hold. Well, number one, this is something that we will move through. I mean, I think it's hard sometimes in the emotion of the moment when, you know, you read the headlines and we're kind of taking steps forward, but then sometimes backwards, you wonder, are we going to be able to get, you know, have exit velocity from this? Or are we going to move beyond it? I think one, we will. Two, the market can switch so quickly. We're already seeing now where it's the labor pinch, it's supply of talent. Where are we going to get the people to work to actually take the ambition forward in these businesses? The startup sector, which is our tech sector, is on fire. I mean, it's not a story you read about, but the amount of financing coming into Canadian companies, even in the midst of COVID, is this year will definitely be a record year in venture. And those kinds of companies need very high qualified people, and they need a lot of talent. And they're going to have a hard job filling those jobs in those roles in many cases. So I think there's a lot that's going to be there. So be optimistic, it's for sure. The other thing is, of course, the model on you join an organization and you stay until retirement. This is gone. So that means you're taking a great deal of responsibility for getting what you need out of the opportunities you're in. And that means, you know, making really clear requests of your bosses, giving them your expectations, delivering for them, having what you do for them be something that's memorable, and that just keeps paying off for you down the road. But building your network means you definitely have to, you know, put effort into it and actually have a system around it. And I think it pays off. People that do this, that really take full responsibility, they get the benefit, because they're the folks that people remember. And then when those key opportunities come up, you're going to get that opportunity to take on a job that you might not have known had been there. So I would say stay optimistic. I know it's been challenging, and you know, I've got a son of my own who's starting post-secondary education, and it's been a bit of a start and stop year for him. But he's looking forward to moving online classes and getting back to class and be on campus and so on. But I mean, I'm hopeful in 2022 we're going to start to see that kind of positive trajectory for all of us, hopefully.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as it has been obviously a very tough year for many, it's brought with it a lot of opportunities going forward, and just need to be looking forward and keeping to capitalize.
Well, even where you can work, right, and the ability to perhaps work, working remote. I mean, we've got students in our cohort this year. I mean, I've done sessions with them, and they're from all across the country, from sea to sea, and it's fantastic. The diversity of that group of employees. We need that diversity in the organization. They're now part of our team, and they can. I mean, I hope we'll be able to make some of them employees on an ongoing basis, because that's exactly what we need to renew the organization on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, it removes a lot of those barriers that may have otherwise been there to really bring everyone in. Yeah. Great. Well, as we said before, you have been a very long time supporter of the CSPC, and we're incredibly grateful for your attendance and contributions to the Canadian Science Policy Centre, especially in this new role. So what do you see as the most important aspect of the CSPC that keeps you coming back year after year?
Well, you know, I think it's obvious, and it's, you know, in some ways still something we're looking to gain back, but just all the connectivity and the ability to nurture relationships, to see people that you wouldn't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis, but, you know, to keep those connections strong. I mean, we're trying our best in a virtual world to try to meet the needs that way. And have that kind of collaboration. But I mean, this event, I think, is an expression to me of our aspiration to be ambitious as a science and technology country. And as the event has grown and the participation and interest in it has grown, I think so too is Canada growing in the process. So for me, like, they go one and the other. That this is how our future unfolds. It's going to be through science, technology, our human capital, the people that are in Canada, and the things that they can do and dream. And I think this is a great place to come and bring those ideas and make connections that pay off in being able to see those dreams come into reality. So it's a great event. We're really pleased to support it, and we'll be continuing to do so in the years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, I mean, it's a perfect place to get the right people in the room for things like crowdsourcing of ideas, and really have those discussions that are kind of multidisciplinary as well as kind of Canada-wide, and really reaching there. Great. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Davies, for taking the time to chat with me and share your progress and outlook with our viewers. We're very eager to see the NRC's continued leadership in the Canadian science policy landscape. I believe the best place for our viewers to continue learning about the work that you and your team do is at the nrc.canada.ca website, or at your booth during the CSPC conference. Is that right?
Absolutely. Please visit regular and often, and we look forward to seeing you and talking with you. And it's been great to spend time with you, Peter. And it's great that you're giving to this community back and playing such a key role. Thank you.
Well, it's certainly a great thing to be part of the CSPC family and to get this opportunity. We're also very much looking forward to having you and some other NRC representatives as panelists at several plenary and keynote panels this year at the 2021 Canadian Science Policy Conference this November. So thank you as always for your support and helping to lead Canada's position as a scientific nation.
Fantastic. Have a great conference, everyone. Great to see you. Enjoy.
Thank you very much to our viewers for joining us. We'll see you at the conference. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Hello.